Hey you guys, thanks for clicking on the video here. We're here to talk about the unit circle. It's the circle that matters the most. Is that true? I don't know. I kind of just made it up. But honestly, we're going to use the circle a lot this year. You're going to continue to use the unit circle, so it's something that we really need to master. So I'm actually going to break this up into two different circles to just help your understanding. So first and foremost, let's go around at the quadrant angles and just label this in degrees. Okay, so here, this is actually my x-axis and this is my y-axis. So I want you guys to imagine that this is a coordinate grid because that's what it is. I also want to make sure that we understand that this circle that we have drawn right here has a radius of none other than 1. Okay, so like this goes out 1 unit, that goes out 1 unit, and so on. It does everywhere, actually. So let's start with degrees. Okay, we're going to go around and label this in degrees. So this would be 0 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is going to be 180 degrees. We're just going to keep adding 90. So this is 270. Oops. That's not an 8. And back here would give us 360 degrees. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do here is actually, we're going to split this circle into fourths. Okay. So let's see if I can do this perfectly. Boom. And boom. I did my best, okay? All right. Now, let's label these angles. All right, so this, if I'm cutting 90 in half, that would make this angle right here 45 degrees, right? Plus 45, right, will give us 135. Plus 45 gives us 180. Plus another 45 degrees, that would be 225 degrees. Plus another gives us 270, good. Plus another 45 would give us 315 degrees. And plus another 45 would give us 360. Awesome. Okay, that we understand. Let's talk about ordered pairs. Let's go around again to the quadrant angles first. So this point right here is going to be, right, 1, 0. I go out 1, I go up 0. This one here is going to be 0, 1. I go left or right 0, but I go up 1. Here, I go left 1, -1, 0. Here, I have 0, -1, and back to the start. Now, hopefully, someone once taught you why these next values come into play, but we could draw a right triangle knowing that the radius of that right triangle is 1 and being able to find the side lengths of the other two, which actually are going to be the same, and we would get √2/2. So since this is in the first quadrant, I know it's going to be positive, positive. So that's positive √2/2, √2/2. Based off of symmetry, which makes sense, all of these values are going to go out √2/2 or up, √2/2 or down. So it's just a matter of figuring out positive versus negative. Okay, well, let's think about this one. I have to go left, then up. So that's going to be negative √2/2, positive √2/2. Okay, what about quadrant 3? Well, I'd have to go left, then down. So that would be a negative, negative. Negative √2/2, negative √2/2. Okay, and the last one here. Well, I'd go right, then down. So that's positive, then negative. Positive √2/2, negative √2/2. Okay, and then the last one that we haven't done yet would be radians. Okay, radians is just another way for us to measure angles. We can measure angles in degrees. We can also measure angles in radians. So this right here would be 0 pi. Let's go with our quadrant angles again. Well, we know that 180 is going to be 1 pi, right? So 90 degrees must be pi divided by 2, half of pi. Okay, so this is pi halves. Add another pi halves, that's pi. Add another pi halves, that's 3 pi over 2, or that's also 1.5 pi. And then we get back to the beginning, and that's 2 pi. Okay, well, instead of cutting this in halves, now let's cut this into fourths. So this is going to be 1/4 pi, 2/4 pi, which is pi halves, 3/4 pi, 4/4 pi, 5/4 pi, 6/4 pi, 7/4 pi, and 8/4 pi. And voila. Okay, let's do the same thing now, except we're going to split this up into, instead of into fourths, we're going to split this up into sixths. So what I'd like you guys to do right now is I'd like you with your quadrant angles to label those in radians, their ordered pairs, and degrees. So just 4 of them to start. Put me on pause, and then let's regroup. Okay, so I hope that you guys were able to at least do that part. Should be pretty easy. Now we're actually going to divide this circle into 6. So I'm going to, instead of splitting this first quadrant in half, I'm going to actually split it into thirds here. I'll do my best. 1, 2. Those look pretty equal. Nice job. Nice job. Okay, let's do this one. And this one. Doing my best, okay? All right, so I think it's always easiest to start with degrees. Now here, this went from 0 to 90, and now we cut this up into 3 different pieces. So if I do 90 divided by 3, that gives me 30 degrees. So this first section is going to be 30 degrees, and I'm going to continue to add 30 degrees all the way around. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. I'm just adding 30 every time, right? 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, 360. So going around, I just added 30 degrees every single time. Okay, let's talk about the ordered pairs. Just like I said last time, I hope that once upon a time you were instructed, using right triangle trig to figure out where these numbers come from. But let's talk about the first quadrant, okay? The first ordered pair, we would get √3/2, 1/2. Again, if you don't know where that comes from, draw a right triangle, hypotenuse is 1. This angle is 30 degrees. Figure it out. This one right here would be 1/2, √3/2. Now that I know the first quadrant, that's actually all I really need to know. I can figure out the other 3 quadrants just using symmetry. So for example, if I'm looking at the second quadrant here, well, I know that I'm going to have to change the x values but keep the same y values. So let's look at this 120. I'm actually going to go left 1/2 and up √3/2. And this point right here is actually going to be symmetric to the 30-degree angle, except instead of going positive √3/2, you're actually going negative. Why don't you guys fill the remaining 4 ordered pairs, and then we'll check shortly. Okay, so I filled in the rest. This quadrant, the sign should be negative, negative, and this quadrant, the sign should be positive, negative. Okay. Last but not least, we got to talk about radians. Now, remember, this was pi, but I actually divided up into 6 different pieces. So this must be 1 pi divided by 6. every single time I'm going to add pi sixth, right? Each of these is pi sixth. So pi sixth, 2 pi sixth, which reduces to pi thirds. So 1 pi sixth, 2 pi sixth, 3 pi sixth, 4 pi sixth, which is 2 pi thirds, 5 pi sixth, 6 pi sixth. You guys following? Okay, 7 pi sixth, 8 pi sixth, which reduces to 4 pi thirds, 9 pi sixth, 10 pi sixth, 11 pi sixth, 12 pi sixth. Boom, done. And this is the first 2 unit circles that we wrote put together. Hope that was helpful.